On February 26th, Jack Dorsey fired 4,000 people and blamed artificial intelligence. Block's stock surged 24% overnight. Wall Street called it visionary. Every headline framed it as the future of work arriving ahead of schedule. But here's what most of those headlines left out. The workers who survived the cut, the ones Dorsey kept, started saying publicly that the AI tools can't fill the operational gaps left by 4,000 people. One employee told Wired that top-down mandates to use language models are crazy. Their exact words, "If the tool were good, we'd all just use it." And 11 months before this so-called AI revolution, Dorsey's own internal memo said the layoffs had nothing to do with AI. So if this isn't really about what AI can do, what exactly did Wall Street reward with a 24% stock surge? This is the most important workforce story of 2026, not because of what happened at Block, but because of what it signals for every company watching. We're at a moment where CEOs across every industry are deciding whether to frame their next round of cuts as AI-driven efficiency. And Block just showed them the playbook. Blame the technology, collect the stock bump, deal with the operational fallout later. By the end of this video, you'll understand the specific mechanism that makes this dangerous, not for one company, but for the entire labor market. You'll see the direct historical precedent that shows us how this ends. And you'll know exactly which metrics to watch over the next 90 days to determine whether Dorsey found something real or just ran the most profitable PR strategy in fintech history. Let's start with the receipts. To understand what actually happened at Block, you need to see two documents side by side. The first is from March 2025. Block conducted a round of layoffs, roughly 1,000 employees cut. The internal memo, which leaked to TechCrunch, laid out the reasoning: performance issues, strategy misalignment, management layer reduction. And Dorsey was explicit about one thing. He wrote that the cuts were, and I'm quoting the memo here, not replacing folks with AI. He wasn't vague about it. He named it and ruled it out. The same AI tools that existed in March 2025, including Goose, Block's open-source coding agent that had been in development for over a year, were already deployed across the company. 60% of Block's employees were using Goose weekly. The tools were there. And Dorsey said the layoffs weren't about them. Now, the second document, February 2026, 11 months later, Dorsey publishes a shareholder letter announcing the elimination of over 4,000 roles, nearly half the company. This time, the framing is completely different. Intelligence tools have changed what it means to build and run a company, he wrote. As he posted on X, he claimed that 100 people plus AI equals 1,000 people. On the earnings call, he told analysts that something happened in December, where the models got an order of magnitude more capable. Same company, same downward headcount trajectory. Opposite narrative. So what actually changed between March 2025 and February 2026? Let's look at what the data says. Block's headcount tells a clear story if you zoom out. At the end of 2019, the company had 3,835 employees. During the pandemic, Dorsey went on a hiring spree, building two separate company structures for Square and Cash App instead of one. By Q3 2023, Block had ballooned to nearly 13,000 people. That's a workforce that more than tripled in 4 years. Dorsey himself admitted on X that he overhired during COVID because of the dual structure mistake. By the end of 2025, after multiple rounds of rolling cuts, Block was down to 10,205 employees. The stock had dropped roughly 40% from early 2025. Investor pressure was intense. And then, in the same week that Block reported strong Q4 earnings, gross profit up 24% year over year, Dorsey announced the 4,000-person cut and pinned it to AI. The market loved it. Block shares surged as much as 24% after hours. Now, I want to be honest about something, because this channel doesn't do cheap cynicism. Block has real AI tooling. Goose isn't a chat GPT wrapper slapped on a press release. It's open source, has over 32,000 GitHub stars, more than 370 contributors, and Block reports 50 to 75% time savings on development tasks. Block co-designed the Model Context Protocol with Anthropic. Their CTO has been on multiple podcasts walking through exactly how the tools integrate into development workflows. So the honest read is this: Block has genuine AI capabilities, and the scale of these layoffs exceeds what those capabilities demonstrably justify. Both things are true, and holding both of those truths at the same time is the only way to see what's actually happening here. Because what changed between March 2025 and February 2026 wasn't primarily the technology. What changed was what Wall Street was willing to pay for. Block isn't running an experiment, they're rerunning one, and we already have the results. In 2023, Swedish fintech Klarna went all in on AI replacement. CEO Sebastian Siemiatkowski stopped hiring entirely. By 2024, the company had partnered with OpenAI, slashed customer service and marketing departments, and publicly declared that AI could do all the jobs that humans do. Klarna's chatbot was handling 2.3 million customer conversations a month. The company celebrated $10 million in savings. Headcount dropped from over 5,500 to about 3,400. Sound familiar? By mid-2025, Siemiatkowski was singing a very different tune. Customer satisfaction had cratered. Users complained about robotic responses, inflexible scripts, and the Kafka-esque experience of repeating their issue to a human after the bot failed to resolve it. Internal reviews confirmed what the customers were saying. The AI lacked empathy, couldn't handle nuanced problem-solving, and was actively damaging Klarna's brand. Siemiatkowski's admission was striking in its honesty. He said the company had focused too much on efficiency and cost, and that the result was lower quality that wasn't sustainable. Klarna began rehiring humans. But here's the part of the Klarna story that doesn't get enough attention. The jobs came back, but the careers didn't. Klarna implemented what they called an Uber-style gig model, remote workers choosing their own schedules starting at about $41 an hour, no traditional employment benefits. The workers who'd been told AI replaced them were invited to return, just with less stability, less pay, and less security. Block is making the same bet at roughly 3 times the scale. In a significantly more complex operational environment, Klarna was primarily customer service, high volume, relatively standardized interactions. Block runs payments infrastructure for millions of merchants through Square, handles tens of millions of consumer interactions through Cash App, operates lending products, processes, compliance across multiple jurisdictions. The complexity surface is enormous. And if you're watching this thinking, that's Klarna, not Block, look at the timeline. Block is about 3 months behind the exact same curve. The operational degradation doesn't show up in the first quarter. It shows up in the second and third, when the institutional knowledge gaps start compounding. Here's the part nobody is talking about. The 24% stock surge didn't just reward Block. It programmed every other CEO in America. Think about the incentive structure. When Block announced traditional layoffs in March 2025, framed as performance management, nobody cared. The stock didn't move. When Block announced essentially the same headcount trajectory 11 months later, framed as AI transformation, the stock surged 24%. Same company. Same correction of the same pandemic over hiring. Radically different market response based purely on narrative framing. Fortune's analysis identified what they called an AI jobs doom loop, a self-reinforcing cycle. One company announces AI-driven layoffs, stock goes up, competitors face pressure to match, industry-wide displacement accelerates, and the critical insight is this: the cycle doesn't require AI to actually be doing the work. It only requires the narrative that AI is doing the work. Aaron Zamost, Block's former head of communications from 2015 to 2020, wrote in the New York Times that the stock reward incentivizes the rest of corporate America to follow Block's lead and announce traditional layoffs while playing the AI card. Even Sam Altman, whose company OpenAI has the most to gain from AI anxiety, acknowledged in February that there's some AI washing where people are blaming AI for layoffs that they would otherwise do. A former Block machine learning engineer, identified only as Kenji in a Business Insider report, described the dynamic from the inside. For the past year, he'd been strongly encouraged to use AI tools in his daily work. He showed the tools how to do his tasks, he taught them his workflows, and then he was eliminated. His words: "Over the last year that we were strongly encouraged to use all these AI tools, we were laying the foundations for our own replacement. That's the doom loop's human face. The worker who's instructed to automate themselves out of a job, then told the automation justifies their elimination. So what happens when the market rewards cutting people faster than AI can actually replace them? What happens when every CEO in America gets that signal at the same time? AI can process patterns. But who teaches the AI which patterns matter? Payments infrastructure doesn't run on code alone. It runs on institutional knowledge, the accumulated understanding of edge cases, compliance interactions, fraud vectors specific to merchant verticals. The judgment calls that live in people's heads because they've never been documented. When you eliminate 4,000 roles in a single action, you don't just lose headcount. You lose the understanding of why specific systems work the way they do at the margins where things break. They eliminated the people who knew why the fraud models are configured the way they are. They eliminated the people who knew which compliance rules interact with which state-level regulations. They eliminated the people who knew what breaks when a merchant switches payment processors mid-quarter. And then they told Wall Street that AI would figure it out. IBM learned this lesson from the other side. The company deployed an AI system called Ask HR across its entire HR function, and by most measures it worked. The system now handles 94% of employee queries with high satisfaction scores. But IBM's CHRO acknowledged the deeper problem. The company is now tripling its entry-level hiring because displacing junior workers endangers the leadership pipeline. As she put it, you still need humans developing into the next generation of leaders. The tool handles transactions, it can't develop people. As Gary Marcus has argued, you don't hire junior devs simply for their output. You hire them because the good ones grow into senior devs. The AI tools don't grow. Block's remaining 6,000 employees are now expected to absorb the workload of their eliminated colleagues, while simultaneously adopting AI tools under mandate. Employee morale was described as the worst in 4 years, before the mass layoff even happened. The strongest remaining employees, the ones with the most options in the market, have the most incentive to leave. The weakest, fewer options stay. It's the classic adverse selection problem that plagues every mass layoff, and the AI framing makes it worse because it tells every remaining employee that their replacement is a matter of when, not if. The operational consequences won't show up tomorrow. They'll surface in 3 to 6 months. Longer support resolution times, increased fraud losses, compliance gaps, merchant churn. The lag between the cut and the consequences gives Dorsey a window to declare victory before operational reality catches up. Klarna's trajectory precisely. Let me be direct about where I land on this. AI will transform how companies operate. That is not in question. The models are improving rapidly. The tooling is getting better. Companies that ignore AI will fall behind. All of that is true. What is also true is that cutting 40% of your workforce today based on where AI tools might be in 18 months is not strategy. It's speculation wearing a strategy costume. And the market is currently rewarding the costume, not the substance underneath it. The companies that will actually benefit from AI in the long run are the ones building hybrid models. AI handles pattern recognition, data processing, routine queries, and repetitive tasks. Humans handle judgment calls, empathy-driven interactions, edge cases, institutional memory, and the kind of domain expertise that doesn't exist in any training dataset. That's not a warm and fuzzy take. It's what the data says. Augmentation-focused companies report significantly higher innovation output while maintaining operational quality. Replacement-focused companies report short-term cost savings followed by the Klarna pattern: quality degradation, customer churn, and quiet rehiring. So here's what to watch and here's what to do depending on where you sit. If you're a worker at a company where the AI conversation is accelerating, pay attention to whether leadership is talking about augmentation or replacement. If the word headcount appears in the same sentence as AI tools, you're looking at a cost-cutting exercise with a technology veneer. The defense isn't learning to use AI. Block's employees were mandated to use it, and it didn't protect them. The defense is becoming the person who knows what the AI tools should be pointed at: judgment, domain expertise at the edges, relationship management, the knowledge that lives in your head because you've spent years learning what the documentation never captured. Build that. Maintain professional networks outside your current employer, and understand the institutional incentives that drive these decisions so you're not blindsided when they arrive. If you're a founder or operator considering AI-driven workforce reduction, run Klarna's playback in your head before you run Block's. Run a 90-day pilot on the specific functions you're thinking about eliminating. Measure operational quality, NPS, resolution times, error rates, compliance metrics, not just cost savings. If you can't demonstrate maintained quality in the pilot, you're cutting based on faith, not evidence. And faith doesn't show up on a balance sheet when the fraud losses hit. If you're an investor or analyst watching this space, here's the tell. When Block reports Q2 2026 earnings, don't look at gross profit. Gross profit was already growing before the cuts. Look at the operational indicators: merchant churn rates, support ticket volumes and resolution times, fraud loss ratios, and most importantly, whether the headcount quietly crept back up through contractors, outsourced vendors, or rebranded job postings. The stock chart will tell you what investors want to believe. The operational metrics will tell you what's actually happening on the ground floor. The broader question is whether the market will keep rewarding the narrative or start demanding the receipts. Right now, we're in the narrative phase. Block got its 24% pop. Other CEOs are watching. The doom loop is spinning up. But the Klarna precedent suggests this phase has an expiration date, and when the operational metrics start arriving, the market recalibrates fast. We opened with a headline: 4,000 people fired, stock up 24%. The future of work, arriving ahead of schedule. But the people who actually build and operate Block systems are saying the AI can't fill the gap. 11 months ago, Dorsey's own memo said the cuts weren't about AI. Now they are. What changed wasn't the technology. What changed was what the market was willing to pay for. Here's my prediction, and I want you to hold me to it. By early June 2026, Block will be quietly backfilling critical operational roles through contractors, outsourced vendors, or rebranded positions that don't match the eliminated titles. Their operational quality metrics, merchant NPS, support resolution times, fraud loss rates will show measurable degradation in Q1 or Q2 reporting. If those metrics hold steady with no backfilling, Dorsey found something real, and this channel will say so. But here's the prediction that matters more than Block. Within 90 days, at least 2 more companies will announce AI-framed workforce reductions of 20% or more, explicitly citing Block as the model. The doom loop is already running. The question is, how many companies have to hit Klarna's wall before the market stops rewarding the narrative?